Our next reading is Fundamentals of Credit Analysis. These are the learning outcome statements split into these two specific areas: credit risk and bond, and evaluating credit quality. So the key areas covered in this reading: this topic review introduces credit analysis for corporate bonds, sovereign and non-government bonds. We'll also discuss credit ratings, credit spreads, and effects of changes in ratings. The first LOS, in fact, first two have been combined. Describe the credit risk and credit-related risks affecting corporate bonds, and describe default probability and loss severity as component of credit risk. Let's say I purchase bonds of ABC Incorporated. ABC Incorporated is the issuer or the borrower who has taken money from me. When you say credit risk, the risk that ABC may fail to make the full payment on coupon and the principal or principal. So the risk of loss resulting from the borrower's ABC Incorporated failing to make full and timely payments of interest and or principal, this is called credit risk specifically. There are two components of credit risk: default risk and loss given default. If there is default, what will be the loss that you will suffer? So these two components, default risk and loss given default, is what gives you the total overall credit risk when we purchase a bond. So what is the default risk? Default risk is the probability that the borrower fails to meet its obligation to make full and timely payment of principal and interest. We just discussed a little while ago. And if that default occurs, the portion of the bond's value, including unpaid interest, that we might lose as an investor. So combining these two, the default probability and the loss given default combined, is called the expected loss. Let's say there is 60% probability of default, which is quite high probability, and loss given default could be $1 million. So the expected loss is simply multiplication of these two, means $600,000 is at stake. Now these are the related risks, but though they are not the component of credit risk. Remember, there are certain questions in your curriculum, so you need to distinguish clearly. Credit risk has these two components, and these are the risks related to credit risk. First, the spread risk. What is spread risk? A corporation issues a debt instrument at 7%. And the default-free government bond, their yield is, let's say, 3%. If this spread of 4%, if it widens, this would increase the cost of borrowing for the firm. This is called the spread risk. Next is credit downgrade risk. There are three top credit rating agencies: Fitch, Moody's International, and Standard & Poor. So they rate not only the issuer, but also the bonds that an issuer issues, right? With the passage of time, because of deteriorating financial conditions of the issuer, a bond issuer's creditworthiness may deteriorate, resulting in higher risk of default. So this default risk increase might necessitate that the ratings of the bonds be downgraded as well. This is called the credit downgrade risk. Then market liquidity risk. What are we studying? These are the risks related to credit risk, and they are not the components of credit risk. Market liquidity risk, as the name suggests. Let's say this is the price quoted at the moment for a certain bond. an investor who holds the bond, he is unable to sell at this price. He will have to provide some price concession. Maybe the transaction cost is high. So the price at which the investor can transact, sell or buy may differ from the price indicated in the market. This is called liquidity risk. That you have the bond, you want to sell it, but you can't sell it without giving price concessions or maybe by spending a significant transaction cost. This is called the liquidity risk. Why? Because the bonds are not frequently traded. Those bonds that are not frequently traded, they have limited market turnover. Such bonds will entail market liquidity risk. Next LOS, describe seniority ranking of corporate debt and explain the potential violation of priority of claim in a bankruptcy proceedings. This is how the ranking is prioritized. First, lien loan, senior secured loans. These are the asset-backed loans, specifically collateralized against a certain property, certain asset. Second lien loan are one step below in priority. Senior unsecured, then senior subordinated, then subordinated, and finally junior subordinated. This is important for you to memorize this order, so you know that which bonds rank where with reference to each other. Now the question is, why an issuer would issue different categories of debt? These bonds, since they carry less risk, they will comparatively be a safer investment for the investor, but the return on these bonds would be comparatively lower, let's say 2%, 3%. But these bonds, senior subordinated, unsecured, subordinated, comparatively they offer a higher risk for the investor, so the investor would require a higher return on these bonds. Thereby, a firm might use mixture of these different types of bonds so as to optimize the cost of capital. Remember, the cost of capital contains debt, preferred stock and common stock. So the composition of these different types of sources of finance can be structured in a way so as to optimize the cost of capital, so as to maximize the shareholders' wealth. Further, the next part of LOS, explain the potential violation of priority of claims in a bankruptcy proceedings. Under the court orders, under the bankruptcy proceeding, perhaps the subordinated debts might take priority over senior subordinated, or senior subordinated might be taking priority over senior unsecured under the certain circumstances. So if the court orders so, then this priority of payments might see some shuffling. That's an important point to be noted. Next reading or LOS is distinguish between corporate issuer credit ratings and issue credit ratings and describe the rating agency's practice of notching. First, you need to distinguish between the issuer's ratings and the issue credit rating. Issuer's rating, basically it's a forward-looking opinion about the overall capacity of the issuer, the company, that the issuer will meet its financial obligation. But when we say the issue credit ratings, now it's specifically about a particular issue, bond issue, is a forward-looking opinion about the capacity of an issuer to meet the financial commitments associated with the specific debt or bond or any commercial papers, certificate of deposit, leases, etc. So need to differentiate between the issuer and the issue credit rating. The concept on these are the three top credit rating agencies in the world: Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch, and these are the rating schemes that they use. So this segregation is between the investment grade and non-investment grade. So the idea of notching means a rating methodology to distinguish rating between different liabilities of an issuer. Like a company may have three different bonds graded as A1, A2, or A3, right? So rating methodology to distinguish rating between different liabilities of an issuer is based on the idea that two securities, A1, if they have been rated the same, with the same rating, should have the same expected loss. but different from those securities rated as A2. So an issue may be notched down or notched up to reflect the changing risk exposures. Next, explain the risk in relying on the ratings from credit rating agencies. Now, these are the top 4 credit rating agencies: Moody's, S&P, Fitch, Egan-Jones. So let's say if I am an investor, I want to buy or I want to make an investment in some bonds. So these credit rating agencies, they do a good job. They will rate the bonds, and these ratings will help me decide which bonds should I purchase. But what are the risks involved then? The first and foremost risk related to these credit rating agencies is that credit ratings can change over time. With the passage of time, the economic circumstances change, so the credit ratings might require revision. But the problem is that these ratings are revised after when the price of the bonds have fallen. That is, credit ratings tend to lag the market pricing of credit risk. So that's where the problem could be. Like many US companies, Enron, WorldCom, like European issuers like Parmalat, all these firms were in trouble, but the rating agencies failed to reflect their credit downgrades. And there's also a limitation that some risks are difficult to capture, like litigation risk is hard to quantify. It may affect certain companies, but its quantification could be difficult because the cases could take years into the future. So these are the specific risks in relying on the ratings from credit rating agencies. Next, explain the 4 C's of traditional credit analysis. Capacity, first C; collateral, covenants, and character. First, capacity. Ability to service debt. The issuer is able to service the debt, make coupon payments and the principal payment when it becomes due, determined by industry and company specific fundamentals. So this is the first C of credit analysis, capacity. It is determined by the firm's ability to make payments on coupon and principal. Collateral. Borrower has to have sufficient asset value to cover the debt. If there is a likely default, then there should be sufficient asset value that could be used to distinguish the claims of the investors. Then covenants, we discussed these in our corporate governance. Covenants could be affirmative and negative. We discussed them in detail. State what management is obliged to do and what the management cannot do. So obliged to do means these are the affirmative covenants, and limited in doing means the restriction. These are the restrictive clauses or the negative covenants. Then last is character, the 4th C in credit analysis. It includes factors such as size of the business, location, business structure, history of principals, appetite for sharing information about itself, accounting practices. Does the company follows aggressive or conservative accounting, tax reporting, etc. So these 4 are collectively called the 4 C's of credit analysis. Next, calculate and interpret financial ratios used in credit analysis. These are the ratios we frequently use. Earning before interest and tax depreciation, we know we use these in our FRA. This is something new, funds from operations. This is simply net income adjusted for non-cash items like depreciation, amortization, and deferred income taxes, plus any other non-cash items. These are all profitability and cash flow measures. And free cash flow before dividends is simply net income adjusted for non-cash items in working capital as well, less or add any capital expenditures. There are many questions I have done from curriculum. They are part of another video, so they will explain these in detail. So what we are doing is just an overview here. The rest of 90% work is there. So it's just the 10% that we're just going for a quick overview. Leverage ratio we have discussed in our FRA. Debt to capital, debt upon EBITDA, and this is the new one you will see in the questions that are in the part of another video. So they are all leverage ratio, their interpretation, their computations, all coming. Coverage ratio, So they are all coming, just wait for the next video. Now, while assessing an issuer's liquidity, this is where do we see the liquidity? Cash balances, working capital, operating cash flows, committed bank lines that provide us the required working capital, required in liquidity, and debt coming due, which might require the outflow of these cash flows, committed capital expenditures. All these are the measures of liquidity that an analyst must look at. Now, the next is evaluate the credit quality of corporate bond issuer and bond of that issuer given a key financial ratios of the issuer. All these are coming in EOCs. You will see, I think specifically question number 41 onwards to 45. They contain extensive, larger questions with balance sheet, income statement, cash flow statements given. So there we will apply the numbers, and then there we will try to interpret this reading there. Next, LOS, describe factors that influence the level and volatility of yield spread. These all we discussed previously. So revisit. The yield on corporate bond is determined by these factors. First, these three are present in default free bonds: real risk-free rate, expected inflation, and maturity premium, and present only in corporate bonds: liquidity premium and credit spread. Now, spread on all corporate bonds can be affected by a number of factors. First, previous slide, credit cycle. As the credit cycle improves, credit spreads will narrow, but as the credit cycle worsens, credit spreads will become wider. The broader economic conditions, we are of course operating in a larger fabric, larger socio-economic arrangements. So economy does affect every aspect of human endeavor. So weakening economic conditions will push investors to demand greater risk premium, and it will result in wider credit spreads and vice versa. Then overall, if the financial markets are performing well, credit spreads will be less wide, but in weak financial markets, credit spreads widen. And then there are many other factors like brokers, dealers, willingness to provide capital, general market forces, availability of credit in the market, liquidity, etc. Next, explain special considerations when evaluating the credit of high yield, sovereign and non-sovereign government debt. Issuers and issues. First of all, when you say the high yield corporate bonds, they are also sometimes called non-investment grade or junk bonds, and they are rated below these ratings. Why? Why they are below investment grade? Reason: they are highly leveraged capital structure, providing high yield. The firm that issues such bonds, normally such firms have weak or limited operating history. The firm may have very little cash available to make the coupon and principal payments, so likelihood of default is high, and the business might be cyclical in nature. The management is poor, so in order to raise finance, they have issued bonds of this category. Lack of scale or competitive advantage, thereby putting the investors in grave danger of default. And perhaps the firm is operating in a declining industry, such as newspaper publishing is now a declining industry because people now prefer to read the news on their tablets, smartphones, and computers. So that's true. So basically, high yield bonds, they require more in-depth analysis than the investment grade bonds do, because there is a greatest focus on liquidity and cash flows, detailed financial projections, detailed analysis of debt structure, so on and so forth. Then sovereign debt, the last part. When analyzing sovereign debt, we need to see the institutional effectiveness and political risk. Like investing in a stable country like the US, the political risk is low, institutional effectiveness is high, Economic structure also needs to be seen, whether the economy has growth prospects, income per capita, trend growth prospects, sources and stability of growth, size of public sector relative to the private sector, monetary flexibility, etc. So these are the specific areas to be addressed for assessing the sovereign bonds. So guys, that's all for your reading fundamentals of credit analysis. It was a quick overview, and I hope the remaining areas would be covered through questions. I always emphasize doing as many questions as possible, because whatever might be left in the theory overviews would be covered through questions. Thank you for watching.